Okay, so now we're going to have a look at wide area metrics only, and this is going to affect the way that, that the ISIS routes propagate in some really quite unusual ways. So let's have a look. Initially, the TLVs for ISIS were as follows, and we call these the narrow metrics. So the 128 here is internal, and the 130 is external. And the 2 and the 128, they sort of send similar information in a similar way to 1s and 2s within OSPF. And the 130 is external, and I suppose you could see that that would be similar to a type 5 or a type 7. And these are the TLVs in ISIS. Now, the problem with the metrics in ISIS is they really were very, very limited. The default metric on all the lines is 10. The highest it can get to is 63. And the total metric of a path is 1023. Now, this is going to cause a real problem because, of course, with today's large networks, we're going to exceed these values really quite quickly. And so something had to be done about the metrics in ISIS. And so wide area metrics were developed. Now, the wide area metrics, in this case, 135 and 22. So these are going to be our wide area metric guys. So here, you've got a much larger metric. However, we don't have the external bit. And this is going to cause a bit of an issue, because when we have wide area metrics only on, there's no way to discern the difference between an external and an internal. Okay, so the next complexity with this story is that the wide area metrics and the narrow are run by default at the same time. So narrow metrics and wide area metrics are on. However, the wide area metrics are just reflecting the lower values of the narrow metrics. And this is part of the standard for the ability to migrate from narrow to wide. They're both on by default. However, the wide isn't doing very much. It's when we start running wide area metrics only and we start excluding the narrow that the wide area metrics can reach these higher values that we're looking for. And this is where we lose the external. Because, of course, there's no TLV here that can carry it. And at that point, our propagations are really going to change. So the first thing that's going to happen is that our preference values change. Normally, we have a preference value of 160 and 165 for level 2 and for level 1 and level 2 respectively on an external. And now they're going to look internal. So of course we're down to the 15 and the 18. And the second thing that's going to affect our propagation is the fact that now this external looks internal. And of course, internals are passed up to level 2. So now our externals do go from level 1 into the level 2. And this is a really big change. So far we've been looking at IP version 4, and IP version 6 is different again. So the TLV on the wide area, the IP version 6, is 236, and this is able to carry the external bit, and consequently the IP version 6 stays as an external when wide area metrics with the higher values are used. And this has again two big impacts. The first is that, of course, it's not going to propagate from the level 1 to the level 2. And of course, the reason is that it can be seen as an external. And as we know, there's no externals from L1 to L2. And the second impact is the fact that they really will stay at the 160 or the 165 preference values because they're marked as externals. And we're going to see that in an example in the next screen.